All right. Angela Neal Grove is a photojournalist and inveterate traveler. She was born and educated in the UK and began her writing career on Fleet Street, London, writing for national magazines. After settling in California, she wrote for numerous publications, including the Los Angeles Times, Chicago Tribune, San Francisco Chronicle, and Christian Science Monitor. Angela has broadcast for the BBC, KDFC, KALW, and enjoys giving presentations which share her often remote and exotic travels. Her first journey around the world included a 72-day bus ride from London to Kathmandu. An award-winning photographer, this morning she takes us through the remote headwaters of the Amazon River in Peru, which she explored with National Geographic photographers and a team of naturalists. Take it away.
Thank you, Nancy, for that lovely introduction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. I hope you're ready for an adventure. Today, we're going to explore the remote area of the Amazon River Basin in Peru, as Nancy just mentioned. On that journey, we were completely off the grid for 10 days. There was no internet or contact with the outside world, which added to the spirit of adventure and helped to immerse us in the world of the Amazon, the Amazonians, and the incredible diverse wildlife of the world's largest rainforest. Whether the Nile, including the White Nile, or the Amazon, at approximately 4,000 miles long, are the longer rivers is disputed. The Amazon is, however, the largest river by volume of its discharge, and its area is immense. 9 countries share the Amazon basin. The source of the river has also been disputed and continues to be disputed. Currently, the Maranon, and Mapurac and Mantaro rivers in the high Andes are considered the sources by geographers. We shall begin this morning at Iquitos in Peru. This city is known as the capital of the Peruvian Amazon. It's the largest city in the world that cannot be reached by road. It is only accessible by river or by air. During the rubber boom era of the late 19th century, the city attracted thousands of European traders and workers. They built an opera house, a cathedral, and grand colonial buildings, all in the middle of the jungle. They, of course, accessed the city by river from the Atlantic. But that was a different era. Iquitos is close to the Pacaya Samira Reserve, an 8,000 square mile national park, much of which is flooded forest. Here, the incredible diversity of the Amazonian flora and fauna are fortunately protected. So if you can see on the map here, you'll see way to the left, down about 2/3 down, you'll see Lima, and then we had to fly north to Iquitos. And that's where the main part of the Amazon begins. And then you can see there are 9 countries surrounding this huge Amazon basin. Well, then flying into Iquitos. So from the air, these were just photographs that I took with my iPhone as we flew in. On the left, you can see the lazy curve of the Amazon River and nothing but forest, as far as you can see. Right here, we're a little bit closer to Iquitos, and we're coming in, and you can see it's surrounded by water. On the left-hand side, you can see a roof that's kind of pointed, and actually that's where we had lunch. But this was sort of an overview of Iquitos. So there we are, Iquitos, gateway to the Amazon River. This is what Iquitos looks like today. As I mentioned, once it was a glorious capital with opera house and many colonial buildings. The buildings are still there. I wasn't really there on an architectural tour, so I can't really tell you very much about it. But this really is what Iquitos looks like today. It's a poor place. There isn't much except for ecotourism. That's about the only industry. Many of the streets are not made up. They're just made of mud, and there's not a lot for people to do there. We had lunch at that, I pointed out the place with the pointed roof, and actually that's where we had lunch. We'd flown from Lima to Iquitos, and then after that, which was about a 2-hour flight, and then we had another 2 hours by bus to a place called Norte to get us right into the jungle. And anyway, we had our lunch at this very nice restaurant. I was kind of surprised that this guard was looking after us. I thought it was very nice that he was. As somebody said, that doesn't really look like fishing tackle. Somebody said, well, maybe he's trying to get rid of the crocodiles. Anyway, there we go. It was our, so there's our boat, the Delphin 2. Delphin means dolphin, and you will actually, towards the end, see a very blurry picture of 2 of the Amazon pink dolphins. The boat was made basically on a barge base, so it's flat bottomed so that it can get into very shallow waterways. Much of the Amazon is very, very shallow, and the backwaters that we were going to explore were very shallow. On the top is a bar area and place where you could sit when we were in motion and take some photographs and learn how to cook. The chef came one day and taught us how to cook Peruvian delights. And then my window is sort of in the middle on the first layer. And from that I had the most incredible views. The dining room is towards the back. So that was the view out of my window. Having had this long, long journey from Lima, you know, lunch, and then the bus ride over bumpy, bumpy roads to Norte, to go into my bedroom and see this rather gorgeous view was absolutely amazing. So here we are, the National Pacaya Samira Reserve. And this was our first morning, and we all had to sign in. The area is protected, which is wonderful. So we were in one of our flat bottom skiffs, and we're looking for the trailhead. I thought the picture of all of these birds' nests were amazing. The tree is kind of leaning over with the weight of them. I think they all like to hang together. And there is the trailhead. On the left, you can see the skiffs that we used. They got flat bottoms, and they could negotiate over all kinds of water hyacinth and so on. Anyway, there we are going in for our first forest walk. And that was actually, there we are walking through the forest. It was quite dark. There are several layers of forest. You've got this base layer, then you've got kind of a middle layer of the middle trees with their canopy. And then above that is a canopy of the very, very tall trees. So for any of the photographers among you, we had to bump our ISO up to quite high in order to get some decent photographs. That on the trail, this was our guide, and he was leading us along the trail, and he had a very, very sharp machete. I actually felt it. It really was sharp. And he was whacking away at branches and things. Because it's tropical and hot and wet, vegetation grows almost overnight. So if you don't whack away things, they need whacking away almost every day. He was a great guide. And if you have to look down at the ground, here this frog, I almost stepped on it. The camouflage is amazing. There is so much stuff here on the forest floor, it's amazing. This little poison dart frog, he wasn't camouflaged. And he's very, very tiny. On the way left, you can see the fingernail of the guide, which gives you some idea of how tiny this poison dart frog is. And he's very beautiful with his turquoise patterned arms and legs and his orange back. The indigenous people do use poison from this frog for when they're going to catch monkeys or other mammals in the jungle. Here we've got a wonderful centipede, quite bright in color. He wasn't disguised at all. He was rattling along. I was amazed. Look at his legs. I don't know if he has 1,000,000 legs, but anyway, I'm sure he has 1,000 legs. They're blue as well. I thought he was really quite magnificent. There's a tarantula. We saw quite a lot of these. And on the right there, I think he caught that little insect. He was moving along. And there's another tarantula. This one was going up a tree. You can see the top, you can see his eyes. You really want to be quite careful when you're walking through this forest. We had knee-high boots and long sleeves and hats, and we were protected. Clearly you don't want to run into these things. So here is one of the tall trees, and it has an enormous root base. You can see the scale from the people standing around. And then Krista Rossau, who was one of the National Geographic photographers, took this of me. She wanted to use it for scale in a photograph, but they're huge. I mean, this is just the root base. Then round the back of the tree, guess what we found? A boa constrictor curled up in a pile of leaves. You really do need to be careful when you're walking around on this forest floor. It was quite well disguised. The guide actually came across it, and we all disappeared. That was enough for us. As I mentioned, rubber was grown by wild in the Amazon basin. In fact, this was where rubber trees originally came from. The British took rubber seeds to Malaya and grew them there, and I think they were grown in the Dutch East Indies, but this is where rubber trees were originally found. And the guide made a cut, and you can see the sap there. Not a good photograph, but right in the middle, you can see these little leaves kind of standing up. I was walking along the path, and right in front of me, the leaves appeared to be walking across the path. I couldn't really quite understand what was going on until I discovered they are leaf cutter ants. And the ants, which are really quite small, are underneath these huge pieces of leaves. And they were walking through the jungle. They were going to, I guess, help build their nest with the leaves. There's another friend. So yes, so here we have an anaconda. The guide was very excited when he found, and we all rushed over and looked. And then he poked it with a stick, and he actually got it on the end of his stick there. Yeah, they're not venomous, but they're constrictors. And you can see our guide is treating the snake with great respect. So many flowers, so much beauty in this forest jungle. Beautiful flowers, all kinds of wonderful colors. Here's some wild ginger, and some more ginger that the ants seem to have found. They're crawling up the top there. Lovely flowers, masses of them, even in the undergrowth where it was quite dark. And you can see little bits of spider's web. So now we're in the treetops. So I mentioned we were on the ground, and then there's the middle layer, and now we're way up in the treetops. This is I have to get this right, the brown-throated three-toed sloth, almost, yes. So the brown brown-throated three-toed sloth, and he was up in the top of the tree, and he was just hanging out, barely moving, barely moving. He couldn't see us. We had our telephoto lenses, and he just was hanging out, enjoying the sunshine, and just generally doing what sloths do. This was how we discovered the treetops. There are these long walkways that have been slung between the trees. They're not incredibly stable. They're very, very slippery. Because of all of the rain, there's a kind of mossy and very slippery. You have to hold on both sides. It sways back and forth. And also when you put your foot down, it vibrates. So they really suggested we should go one at a time. But it was worth it to be up there among the treetops. So here are some owl monkeys, which I saw hiding in a tree trunk. They're the only nocturnal monkeys. They're gorgeous, big brown eyes. And here is an agouti. He's about the size of a guinea pig. There again, hiding away in the trunk of a tree. Then this hummingbird, I'm used to seeing hummingbirds in my garden dart around and after insects fast. This hummingbird had a different method. He just sat there by the trunk of the tree and opened his mouth when insects would go by. There were so many mosquitoes and things, he didn't need to lift a finger or lift a foot. There he was catching them just as they went by. It was something new, different. So here we have squirrel monkeys. They are after these fruits. You can see some on the left. They look like olives, and they were gobbling up the fruits. There are 9 different types of monkey in the Amazon basin. There are 15 species of monkey throughout the world, but 9 are in the Amazon basin. They were feasting on these fruits. So in the tops of trees is a whole nother ecosystem. Here you can see epiphytes. I don't know if you can see any orchids, but epiphytes and orchids and all of these wonderful plants were growing in the tops of trees. They just hang on with little tiny roots and then send out long feelers and get their nutrition and their water from those. So they don't damage the tree. They're not parasites like ivy. They're just hanging up there. And which is why when you buy a Phalaenopsis and you're always having to stake it, it always wants to fall over. It's because Phalaenopsis, in their habitat here in the Amazon, they're actually, the flowers are hanging down, which is why we have a problem to stake them pointing upwards. Macaws are were just gorgeous. We would see them flying across way up in the sky. They would be screeching away. And I was very fortunate to get this pair. They have, you know, macaws have been trafficked a lot with wildlife, and but there seem to be a lot in the Amazon that are still protected. So life on the river. The people that live on the river, the indigenous people, are called ribaneros, which is people of the river. This little dugout canoe, I really don't think if they had put one more, if they put anything else on that, I'm not sure it would have stayed afloat. But there it is, there they are, the family, and they're going up the river. There's another, I'm not sure if they're a family but people move. As I mentioned, there are no roads. The river is the transport. It's the freeway. It's the byways. It's the lanes. It's the method of transportation. This is a river bus, If you look inside, you can see some hammocks. So if people are on the bus overnight, they can go to sleep in the hammocks. And this will go maybe for 2 or 3 days up the river or down the river. More transportation. They've made a nice cover for themselves. And this person here is shuttling a dugout canoe. He's delivering a dugout canoe to somebody, perhaps. And there again, we've got 4 or 5 dugout canoes on this big boat. And then the people that are delivering them seem to be taking a nap. I don't blame them. There's another river boat. And here we've got along one of the main channels of the river was this huge transport that had come, who knows where it had come from Brazil, or, who knows. You can see some boats there, great big ship containers. They could be holding food for the people in Iquitos, to supply the restaurants and the grocery stores and so on. But this is method of transportation. And here they were loading bananas. One evening we watched them loading bananas onto one of these transport ships, which would then go presumably downstream. And here we've got bananas actually growing in the trees. Bananas were everywhere. And the people, the indigenous people, the Ribaneros, are allowed to plant just 2 rows of banana trees on the banks of the river. No further than that, because it's protected, but they are allowed to farm just for 2 rows. And so they're able to grow some bananas for their own families, and to make a living also. So village life, we visited a village. The indigenous people are now mostly in villages. They're not, here is a school that was funded by an NGO, and the children all go to the school. You can see there's basketball, and I don't know, they have reading and writing. Of course, they have no internet, no television. They're off the grid like we were. So I don't know when they get to a certain stage, whether they perhaps would go to Iquitos for school, or whether their learning stops at a certain stage. And I worry about what's happened now with the pandemic. Here is the little grocery store in the village. Here is their cerveza and all of the other things that they can buy. And the people were so friendly. It was lovely meeting them. I was fascinated by this lady and her t-shirt from Brooklyn, rather a long way from Brooklyn. The children were just lovely, so photogenic and so sweet and friendly. Darling little faces. And they seemed, clean and well cared for and happy. This little girl was watching us as we took photographs, and she, in the end, she'd had this little toy. It's a little raffia, I think a little raffia bird, and she held it up to her face. She said, oh, well, you're all holding your cameras up to your face. I'm going to hold something up to my face too. So it's very sweet. And here she is with her other siblings. And then this was one of our guides. And while we were exploring the village, he took these children for a ride in our skiff. They had never been on a boat like this before, and they were just thrilled. And it was fun to see them so excited with something new. Because we had flat bottom boats and skiffs, we were able to access some of the most incredible scenery. This was a lagoon that we were able to go to fairly early in the morning. It's very still, as you can see, because it's early in the morning, and it was so beautiful and just a photographer's delight. And the trees with all of the reflections in the water, it was hard to know where the trees begin and the water starts, especially in this photograph here. It's just one big pastiche of trees. This in the front of us here is water hyacinth, and this kind of clogs the some of the channels and the back waterways. But the skiffs were able to chug through this water hyacinth. This is a water hyacinth blossom, which there again, all of the blossoms that I found and the flora was so beautiful. Here again, it's flooded forest. So much of where we went is just flooded forest. These are bats on this tree. They're little tiny bats, and I assume they come out at night. Curious little shapes. There's another friend as we were going along the river. Beautiful colors, sort of purple and orange. And there's a caiman. This is a variety of crocodile that is found in the Amazon basin. They're called caimans, and they're a little bit smaller than alligators or crocodiles. Here are some of the gigantic lily pads that I was really excited to see. I wanted to I'd seen them at Kew Gardens in London, in the hothouse there, and I really wanted to see them in the wild. Unfortunately, these were the only ones that I saw. And I asked the guide about it. I said, well, if these are the Amazon water lilies, you know, where are they? He said, actually, the riboneros have been cutting them because the fish hide underneath these huge water lily leaves. And they want the fish because that's what they eat. And so they want to cut the lilies away, so the pads away, so that they can catch the fish. So that so there aren't so many as I thought there'd be. So this is one of the most beautiful blossoms that I thought that I could find, and I was taking most beautiful. It's called a Gustavia, and I was taking a photograph of it. I could see the little ant there. And then as I began to watch, it kind of got dark, and I thought, well, this is funny. Why is it getting so dark? And then I looked, and it got darker and darker. And look who came out. It is a carpenter bee, and he had been busy pollinating the plant. And there he is making his exit there. The ant is still there. So just to go back, you see this? There's no sign of the bee whatsoever. And then all of a sudden, out he came. I was fascinated by that. So it's a Gustavia plant, and you actually can buy Gustavia plants and have them here in your gardens, or gardens wherever you might be. Can't guarantee you'd get a carpenter bee. The bird life was just gorgeous, and it was lurking in the bushes and along the banks. Sometimes we startled them. Beautiful blue eye on this bird. Lots of brilliant, brilliant colors. And this yellow bird with his nest there, he has a brilliant blue eye. So we had fun too. It wasn't all photographing, well, it wasn't all photographing and lying on the bottom of a boat and trying to photograph a snake and all that kind of thing. This is our trip manager. His name was Jeff, and he had paddle boards on board the Delphin too. And he said, you know, does anybody want to go paddle boarding? He was the only taker. Frankly, I I don't know how good at paddleboarding I am, and I certainly wouldn't want to fall into that water. Who knows what's lurking there? We've just seen snakes and things. Also, there are these trees and bushes with these incredibly sharp thorns. But there he was. I guess he's done it before, and he thoroughly enjoyed himself. But anyway, there were other things I did participate in. Here we are kayaking. This again was our trip manager. We were in the kayak, the two of us. He did most of the heavy lifting, I have to say, but it was a lot of fun. And to be down at the water level was really an experience. Then this is Krista Rossau, who was one of the National Geographic photographers. We actually became quite good friends. Now on the floor of the boat here, you can see these noodles, which you can use when you're swimming. We use those. Yes, I did actually swim in the Amazon. When they said, you know, who's going to swim in the Amazon? Okay, so I went for it, and we did. We went over the side and swam in the Amazon. We were told the water was quite deep. I had to paddle like mad. I'm glad I had the noodle, because there was a current, and if you didn't paddle like mad, you found that the boat was retreating. Anyway, it was an experience, and it was only actually after I got back on the boat that I realized there were piranhas in the water. And I said, well, what about the piranhas? So somebody said, oh no, they're bottom fish. You know, they couldn't reach you. So anyway, I'm here in one piece to tell the tale. Here we are going through the some of the estuary and the water hyacinth and reeds again, looking for creatures and wildlife and having fun. So somebody spotted something, and leaning way over the side, I didn't know what they were finding. And this was another passenger. His name was Basilio Perez. He was from Puerto Rico, and he was a doctor, and I think he thought this looked kind of dangerous. So he busily held on to these legs, and guess what they were looking at? A little tiny frog. So all of that effort. We've got some really keen photographers here. They don't want to miss a thing. So little tiny frog. This was on a reed, so it gives you some idea of the scale. And lots of photography. Krista took this one of me again. Just a wonderful, wonderful place, such an incredible opportunity. And we had visitors. There's some children came in a boat one afternoon. We came a little bit closer, and somebody threw, one of the workers on the boat, one of the crew staff, they threw down this Pepsi bottle to him. Actually, the oldest boy, the one who was manning the outboard motor, he didn't share it. I thought that was naughty, but anyway. And oops. Okay. Here we go again. He's taking off there. So here we have this. We've got a confrontation. This is a member of the raccoon family. And this is a woolly monkey. And it's a huge woolly monkey. And there he is hanging in the tree. He's one of the largest monkeys in the Amazon basin. You can see here, he's just hanging on by his tail, which is huge, prehensile tail, which almost like another limb. Then he spots the cotomundi, the raccoon-like creature. And I think he's scared of the cotomundi. And we watched this confrontation between this woolly monkey, and here the woolly monkey is trying to escape the cotomundi. The cotomundi is not very large. In fact, I think the woolly monkey is larger. And Krista Rossau said she, in all her travels, she's never seen a confrontation like this between a coatimundi and a woolly monkey before. But they had a confrontation, and you can see the woolly monkey is scared, really scared. And the two of them really get at it. But fortunately, the woolly monkey takes off up the tree. So cheers to the woolly monkey. But it was strange, and the only interaction I'd seen really between creatures on the whole trip. So then one afternoon we have a storm. The clouds began to come in. In fact, in the afternoons it often did rain. This was the only shot that I could get of the pink dolphins. They are very elusive, and as it began to rain, they would come up, but they would dive down, and then you had no idea where they were coming up. Wherever you pointed your camera, they'd come up in a different place. And I got them here just as they were disappearing, but they are rare and they are pink. And at least we have a little glimpse of them here. And this, as the water, this is an Amazon phenomenon. As the water, the two rivers merge here, and they merge here because of the rain. The coffee-colored water and the dark water, here is what happens when the two rivers merge. It was really, I'd never seen anything like it, and it is a phenomenon of the Amazon. So then after the storm, we had a lovely sunset. Here is more, I probably did take 30 or more photographs of this incredible sunset, but that's it. That was my last photograph, and the conclusion of some of my photographs of my trip.